All right. Good morning, everybody. Just want to welcome you first off to the Iowa Health Careers Registered Apprenticeship Program 2.0 informational webinar. We're tremendously excited to have all of you here right now at 119 attendees. So we're really excited that you all are joining us. This is a really exciting time. Over the last about year and a half, we've had the opportunity to kick off with a teacher para-educator registered apprenticeship, and we also did the Iowa Health Careers 1.0 program that have been showing great success. So we're tremendously excited to kick off this opportunity that the governor has allowed us to do. The 2.0 program goes a little bit more in depth with a lot of the different health careers that are out there. So we're excited to share that with you and work with all of you to continue to grow a registered apprenticeship throughout the state. So as we are going through the webinar, if you have any questions, please make sure that you are putting that in the chat. We'll be doing a complete Q&A at the end of the presentation, and we'll be posting that in the next couple days on the Earn and Learn Iowa website. We have a main page that has all of our grants out there, and so we will make sure that we have that Q&A posted as well as the recording that we have. Just a brief introduction to the agenda. We're going to do some introductions so that we can share who our team is. We're going to talk a little bit about the overview of the grant, the requirements for successful applicants, what the project design is going to look like, a quick understanding of what registered apprenticeship is, an overview of that, and then we'll have a video of Iowa grants and how you can apply for the grants throughout using the Iowa grants process, and then a few minutes at the end for Q&A. Our panelists for today, I'm Chris Byam. I'm an interim division administrator here at Iowa Workforce Development, but in this process, I'll be a co-grant manager. So I'll be assisting with questions during the application process, looking and managing some of the subrecipients post-awards. The other co-manager for this program is Deborah Fox. Once again, she'll also be helping out during the application process, as well as managing the subrecipients post-award. One of our other team members is Patrick Rice. He's the grant administrator. He does a an amazing job of organizing and helping us through the process with Iowa grants. So he'll be responsible for the application review process when we get to that point. In addition, we have Jennifer Gray, who is a registered apprenticeship workforce program coordinator. She'll be assisting with the reviews and also the submission of apprenticeship programs to the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship for approval, and then official registration for those RA programs. And then last but not least, Linda Fandel, she's the governor's liaison for work-based learning. She assists with high schools in developing the registered apprenticeship programs, bringing partnerships together, and offering support to the high schools and all those employer partners to get people collaborating in the process. So last but not least, where do you apply? www.iowagrants.gov. That application is currently open. And then the deadline is going to be noon on March 9th. And for high schools, we did that prior to spring break for you so that you can get that off your plate before you go to spring break.
All right, thank you, Chris. Yes, I would reiterate what Chris said. Welcome everyone to this informational webinar on our Iowa Health Careers 2.0. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to dive right in here, and we're going to talk about the grant intent. So the intent of this grant is to provide funding to Iowa-based skilled nursing facilities, residential care facilities, assisted living facilities, hospitals, home health agencies, and public-private accredited high schools, Iowa high schools, community colleges, and universities for the purpose of developing registered apprenticeship pathways in healthcare for individuals located in the state of Iowa. Eligible applicants. Eligible applicants are Iowa-based nursing and skilled nursing facilities, residential care facilities, assisted living facilities, hospitals, home health agencies, public-private accredited Iowa high schools, community colleges, and universities, all of which must be located within the state of Iowa. For a more detailed description of these eligibility definitions, I would highly encourage you to look at the definition section within the Notice of Funding Opportunity document. Inside there are also definitions for other terms that you're going to see throughout the grant document. Performance measures. So performance measures. All applicants must include performance measures that align with the Department of Labor's Office of Apprenticeship work processes within the approved registered apprenticeship, on the job, and related training instruction standards and or competencies. Some of those performance measures anticipated are the anticipated number of new pathways established for apprentices, anticipated number of apprentices participating within each of those new pathways offered, number of industry recognized credentials and certifications earned by the apprentices within these pathways, and the comparison of open positions available associated with each pathway prior to the start of the program, during and after completion. This is not an all-encompassing list of those performance measures, but this will certainly give everyone a good understanding of some of the things that we will be looking at. I would highly encourage everyone again to see Appendix A, which is the application guidance, and the scoring rubric, which is located again within that notice of funding document, for a detailed description of what the grant reviewers will be looking for within your application. The Appendix A, which is that applicant guidance, some of the different sections of that are the general information, the project description, the project service area, the project need, the project design, performance measures, organization capacity and a sustainability narrative, budget summary and budget narrative, application attachments, and then the minority impact statement. So again, that Appendix A gives you potential awardees the information that you need to develop the most comprehensive application for this grant. So please take advantage of the resources that are available to you within those documents. So the award information, so we have the state of Iowa has set aside $15 million for this particular Iowa healthcare career grant, and the source of those funds come from funding received under the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, which is the state and local fiscal recovery funds, also known as the SLFRF. The program authority for these funds, IWD's authority to award these grants, may be found in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. As delegated by our governor, Kim Reynolds, pursuant to her authority under the same act. There are no maximum award amounts for this particular grant. So the budget and the need is going to be up to you. So again, you will want to make sure that your budget summary and that your budget narrative are as detailed as possible, so that when those items, those documents are being reviewed by the scoring review team, we will have a clear understanding of why you are asking for those amounts. And again, down here at the bottom, it's discussing funding priorities and additional considerations. So as part of this grant, the funding priority and preferential points will be given to partnerships that include public-private accredited Iowa high schools and or public-private accredited high schools acting as lead registered apprenticeship program sponsors. In addition, applicants providing details on efforts to include underrepresented populations within the program, and consideration will be given regarding the location of applications during the review process to promote the geographic diversity of grantees. So award information continued. So IWD does anticipate awarding a total of approximately $15 million allocated to registered apprenticeships developed within the following career pathways: emergency medical services, nursing, direct support care, and behavioral health. A minimum of 5 grants will be awarded that may vary in amount as determined by the scope of the project and the availability of funding. Funding decisions are made as funding is available, and IWD is not obligated to provide any requested amount. Each successful applicant will be required to provide a sustainability plan that demonstrates how the program will be maintained after the grant funding is fully expended. Project and award period. This project period, the grant dates are June 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2026. Reporting requirements, and this again is not all inclusive, but it is important for us to note here that awardees must provide a detailed report of the progress of the project and the use of funds every quarter, beginning from the date the memorandum of understanding between the applicant and the state is fully executed. And as you can all see here, this big red stop sign and the stop and read this is very, very important information specific to the SLFRF funds. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to read this section, and then I'm going to ask Patrick Rice to provide any additional information that he may want to. So the funds for this award are provided by the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, SLFRF, part of the American Rescue Plan. SLFRF requires that all costs be incurred during the period between March 3rd, 2021 and the ending date of December 31st, 2024. Therefore, all costs incurred prior to March 3rd, 2021 and after December 31st, 2024 are not eligible use of these funds. The period of performance for SLFRF funds runs until December 31st of 2026, which will provide recipients an additional 2 years during which they may expend funds for the costs incurred, i.e. obligated by December 31st, 2024. Any award funds not obligated or expended within these timeframes must be returned to the state. Recipients of these funds will be held accountable to these funding timeframes. So that's a lot of information, and it may sound a little convoluted, and so that's what we're going to have Patrick jump on and see if he can shed any additional light on that for us. So Patrick.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Deb. And Steve, I saw your question in the chat about the 2021 versus 2024 date. This information in this red box is specific information directly taken from the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund program. So the overarching American Rescue Plan Act of SLFRF funds started March 3rd of 2021. This specific program, which utilizes those funds, doesn't start until 6/1 of 2023. So don't consider the 2021 date as the start date of the program. That's the start date of the funds that the federal government allowed the state to start. That's the date that the state was able to start utilizing the funds. That was a large amount of money that was given to the state from the American Rescue Plan Act, and this is one program that's utilizing some of those funds. So for this specific project period, the start date is 6/1 of 2023. I also want to call out the December 31st of 2024 date, which is before the 6/30 of 2026 date. The project period does go until June 30th of 2026, but according to the American Rescue Plan SLFRF fund document, the date that the last date that which funds can be either expended or obligated is December 31st of 2024. What that means is that all of your purchases, even though the project period is extended until 2026, all of your purchases must be made by December 31st of 2024, or they have to be obligated funds, meaning that you have to communicate with IWD exactly who you're going to be spending the funds with, and what those purchases are for and the amount before that date. So just want to call that out a little bit. I mean, I know that those dates can kind of get confusing, but we'll be more specific, especially during our awardee webinar, to highlight this more.
Okay, looks like we lost Patrick there just briefly. So we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and move forward. Thank you, Patrick, for that information. And I know what Patrick was indicating is that for those successful applicants that will be receiving awards, there will be follow-up webinars in addition to this one that we're having today. So moving forward here. The type of awards, so IWD will award funds to successful applicants to carry out planned proposals, and unexpended grant dollars must be returned to Iowa Workforce Development thereafter. All grant funds are administered as reimbursable only, and no advance payments will be an option under this particular grant. There is no cost sharing or matching amount for this award. The executed grant agreement will specify conditions for payment and payment schedule, and applicants are strongly encouraged to have legal representation and an accountant or bookkeeper to help manage any potential award and review agreements or the procurement policy, etc. So I can't stress that enough, and I know a lot of the folks that have worked with grants in the past would indicate the same thing. Grants can be very tedious, and there are oftentimes many requirements, especially reporting requirements. We just want to make sure that as a successful applicant, that you are aware of all of those requirements. So use of funds, what can the grant funds be used on? So over here, we have all funds requested through the budget narrative, and the budget summary form should provide justification for the cost, and the majority of the funds requested should closely match the program priorities. Over here on the right side here, grant funds provided may be used on equipment purchases under $5,000, tuition, textbook, and fee expenses for an accredited third-party related training instruction provider, so RTI provider, training materials such as textbooks, curriculum, etc. for in-house instruction. So that would be if you're planning on doing your related training instruction within your own organization or facility. Supportive services for apprentices, including uniforms and personal protective equipment. Fees traditionally incurred by apprentices such as CPR and CNA expenses, lab costs, background checks, etc. Apprentices earn and learn wages up to $7 per hour for on-the-job training providers up to an annual maximum of $7,000. Instructor salaries for the in-house related training instruction. Administrative expenses limited to 5% of the total award. Transportation expenses for programs. And the definition of transportation expenses would be those direct expenses for the apprentice. For example, getting them from point A to point B within their registered apprenticeship program. Entry-level wages for apprentices must meet or exceed the corresponding Iowa statewide occupational entry wage as indicated in the Iowa 2022 wage survey report. That information can be found on the iowalmi.gov website. If you're not sure and you need assistance with that, you'll be able to reach out to one of our technical team members, which you'll have information for at the very end of this presentation today. There's also a direct link here. And again, as Chris mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, this webinar and all the information included in it will be made available to everyone on the earnandlearn.gov website, hopefully within a few days. So I would assume early next week. So additional Iowa Healthcare 2.0 grant reporting requirements. So I'm going to tell you all, anybody that's on this call knows that I have a little bit of a quirky sense of humor. And so I did add in this up here. With great grants comes great responsibility. We all know that quote from Spider-Man, that with great power comes great responsibility. And what I've learned is that with great grants also comes great responsibility. So again, this would be, additional reporting requirements underneath this grant. So if you are a grant writer on this call, I would certainly make sure that whoever is going to be administering your grants or doing the day-to-day work of those grants, that they are aware of these reporting requirements, that they have this information that we're going to be providing to everyone at the close of this webinar. So grantees will be required to submit vouchers, receipts, expenditures, and reports to document how funds were spent and to certify the funds that were used in accordance with the grant application and the grant program. All grantees must provide a detailed annual report to the Director of Iowa Workforce Development by June 30th of each year through the end of the grant, which is 2026. And folks, that would be in addition to those quarterly reports that you will also need to turn in. The report must include, but is not necessarily limited to, and there's a lot of items here, so I'm just going to pause for about 30 seconds and I will let everyone take a look through that just to familiarize yourself with some of those reporting requirements within that detailed annual report. Okay, go ahead and we will move on. So procurement policy. If you are a successful applicant and awarded these grant funds, you will be required to submit your organization's procurement policy. All successful applicants, again, will be required to provide a copy of this policy to IWD along with the return of the executed agreement. A procurement policy template will be provided to you if needed at your request. However, it is the successful applicant's responsibility to consult with qualified and knowledgeable legal counsel to determine if any specific rules or requirements that apply to your individual circumstances. So what does a procurement policy do? The purpose of a procurement policy is to ensure that the best value, the most advantageous balance of price, quality, and performance is obtained when purchasing business-related products and services, and to minimize fraud, waste, and abuse in purchasing. Another requirement of this grant, and actually this is a requirement of all grants through Iowa Workforce Development, and this is fairly new. All successful awardees will be required to have a sam.gov number. This is actually a print screen of the sam.gov main home screen. So all awarded applicants will be required to have this sam.gov unique code, previously referred to as the DUNS number. If you do not have a sam.gov code, you will be required to register and activate. So there's two parts: you register and then you have to activate that code before the agreement will be fully executed. And of course, we cannot release any funds until we have the executed agreement as well. Now I am going to turn it over to Linda Fandel. She is going to talk to all of us a little bit about the project design. So Linda.
Thank you, Deb. And I want to extend my welcome to everyone too. So why is this project focused on healthcare? You can probably guess, but the healthcare and social assistance industries have the highest number of job openings in Iowa. As of November 2022, healthcare careers represented 4 of the top 10 job posting at iowaworks.gov. Nurses lead typically, and this has been going on for many, many months and many years. So this is probably not news to anyone, but we tend to see registered nurses, nursing assistants, and licensed registered nurses and vocational nurses in those top occupations. The health and care and social assistance industry is Iowa's second largest. They're our second largest industry in terms of the number of people employed. So that also means the opportunities are huge as well. The Iowa Workforce Development, in terms of the project design, requires applicants for this grant to cultivate partnerships to fulfill project activities and outcomes. Eligible applicant partnerships must be made up of at a minimum of an applicant and a related training instruction provider, such as a high school, a community college, universities, or an accredited third-party training provider. A big element of success with these grant applications will be creativity, innovation, and ingenuity. The ideas that you develop as you submit these grant applications have the potential to become statewide models over time. So we are very excited that you are interested and cannot wait to see what you send. So thank you, Deb.
Great, thank you, Linda. Yes, it is very, very exciting. So this is an opportunity for all of you to just show us what you can create. And like Linda said, could potentially lead to being a model across Iowa and even in other states. So show us what you have, folks. All right, we'll move forward. So here is I think this is a good visual for you to see what the review team, what we might be looking at. So as I mentioned in one of the previous screens, the 4 pathways that we're really looking at with this grant are the emergency medical services, direct support care. So I think I saw someone had it in there with chat. Would direct support specialists or direct support professionals be included in this? Absolutely, they're part of this grant. Nursing, so like CNA, LPN, we would love to have registered nurses as well. But right now, folks, we're kind of in just conversations with whether or not that would be an apprenticeable occupation in Iowa. So for right now, we know CNA, we know LPN and so you can begin building your design around those 2 occupations at this time. Behavioral health, community health workers, substance abuse, behavioral disorder workers, all of these occupations are, highly emerging occupations and definitely have a need for them in Iowa. So this just gives you an idea of what different types of registered apprenticeship programs will be eligible under this particular grant. And again, down here, you can see at the bottom, and again, I need to stress this very carefully that ultimately, all programs that we would build as far as registered apprenticeship programs have to meet Office of Apprenticeship guidelines and regulations, as well as any licensing boards with, Department of Health or the nursing board. So we do want to do our best to work in partnership with them to see if there's opportunities to expand different pathways and different formats. And that's where all of you come in with your creativity and your ingenuity to help develop these type of pathways. And now I am going to turn it over to Jennifer to talk a little bit about registered apprenticeships.
All right, thanks, Deb.
Yeah.
All right, so many of you may be wondering, what is a registered apprenticeship program? So basically, a registered apprenticeship program has 5 components to it. I'm going to briefly go over each component, but as you begin to develop this program, we'll go into more depth with that, the individuals and partners that will help you with that development. So the first component is basically business involvement. You really are the one that is designing this program. You are the one that's determining the competencies. We have an outline for those competencies, for on-the-job competencies, but you're really going to make it more geared towards your agency with that. Usually with on-the-job learning, it's 2,000 hours of on-the-job training. So basically what that adheres to is about a full-time position. That individual will be learning from someone that you deem a mentor that is in your agency, maybe someone that has been doing this occupation for quite some time. They're going to teach and assist that individual in learning that occupation through these on-the-job competencies. The third part is the related training instruction. We also call this the classroom instruction. So the classroom instruction really depends on the occupation and how long that education component lasts. A registered apprenticeship program can go anywhere from 1 to 5 years. So you're looking at about part-time schooling per year of the occupation for that program. The related training instruction or classroom instruction can either be done in a community college, it can be done online, it can be a combination of both, in person at a community college or online, or if you have an opportunity to have classroom instruction on site, you can use that as well, as long as it's accredited. The fourth component of a registered apprenticeship program is rewards for skill gains. So basically, as the apprentice is going through the program, their skills are increasing. So along with their skills increasing, their wages should increase with that as well. And then the last component is the National Occupational Credential. So basically, after an individual gets through the program, either 1 to 5 years, they get what's called a National Occupational Credential from the Department of Labor. This is stating that this individual has learned all the competencies of that occupation and has received the education as well to be able to perform that occupation. All right, next. So one way that you can, there's a few ways that you can develop a registered apprenticeship program, and one of those ways is with partners. On this slide, we have a list of partners that you will potentially work with or could work with. So one of those partners is the Iowa high schools. So the Iowa high schools, basically you can partner with the Iowa high school, and they can develop the related training instruction, that classroom instruction, while you have the on-the-job training component of that. This is an excellent way to develop a pipeline for that occupation for the agency as well. Another partnership is the Iowa community colleges and universities. So a lot of the community colleges and universities have already developed curriculum and maybe some of the occupations that are out there that you are looking at to develop a registered apprenticeship program in, or they can also help develop that curriculum for you as well for that specific occupation. One of the best things about the high schools and the community colleges and universities is that you can look at the high school students receiving that credit for those classes as well. Another partnership is the Iowa Occupational Licensing Board. So that licensing board, you really want to make sure that you're talking with them if you're developing a registered apprenticeship program in a licensed occupation. You want to make sure that you're following along with what that license requires to be able for that individual to finish that program and be able to be licensed in that program as well. Another partner is the Department of Labor, the Office of Apprenticeship. So the Office of Apprenticeship basically registers your program. Once you develop the program, they will take that program, they will make sure that it falls in line with their standards, and then they will register that program. They will also oversee the apprentices that are actually put into that program as well. And then Iowa Workforce Development, we will help you develop the program. We will help bring partners together to the table to develop the program. We will also, make sure that we have child labor laws, that you have copies of the child labor laws to make sure that we're following those if you choose to partner with the Iowa High School. We can also send out like the outlines of these occupations and help develop the RTI, the curriculum, the school curriculum as well. So, all right.
Great. Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
So yes, so that's great. And I think every one of the panelists that you've heard today so far would tell you that partnerships are just invaluable. We can't do creative and innovative things without great partners too. So use those partner connections to develop your design and your project plan for this grant. And so on the screen now, folks, you're going to see the scoring rubric. This is your glimpse into what your scoring team is going to be looking for when you submit your grant application. So you can see project service area is 10 points, project need and demonstration of how proposal addresses that need is 20 points. Program design is 30 points. Performance measures is 20. Organizational capacity and sustainability is 10. Budget is 10 for a total of 100 points. A review team will use the criteria listed in this section to review applications under this funding announcement. Some applicants may receive a request to provide clarifying information and or make changes to their application, including changes to the budget. This information is used by the IWD staff in making funding recommendations. Applications may be recommended for funding even if they are not asked to clarify for questions. A request for clarification does not guarantee a grant award. Failure to respond to requests adequately and in a timely manner may result in the removal of the application from consideration. A selection for funding, decision to award grants and the funding levels will be determined per application based upon compliance with the requirements of this funding announcement. Applications may be selected to enter into a grant agreement, finalize grant terms, budget, scope of work provisions, at which time the final decision to make a grant award will be made. Submission of an application is not a guarantee of an award. And so this brings us back to one of our very first slides within our slide deck. Where do I apply? So you've heard all the great things about this grant, and we're all asking ourselves, well, okay, now I'm ready. How do I do this? So you will apply. The application is available through the www.iowogrants.gov website. Interested applicants will need to register and complete their online application within that website. A reminder here again to utilize the appendices for guidance. Those are there to support you as the end user as you go through this process. Application deadline again is March 9th, 2023 at noon. This is a visual of Appendix A, the application guidance document that we have referenced throughout this presentation. And this is Appendix B. This is the iowogrant.gov, the new user registration instruction. And so at this time, folks, we're going to go ahead and we're going to watch a short 4-minute video on Iowa grants. And then following that video, I am going to hand it over to Patrick Rice, where he is going to talk in more detail about the Iowa grants application process. So we'll go ahead and get the video started.
Welcome. This is a short tutorial on how to access Iowa grants. First, go ahead and navigate to iowogrants.gov. Once you get to iowogrants.gov, go ahead and click on the blue button that states click here to access a single sign-on tool. Now, at this time, I just want to give you a friendly reminder, do not use the box, enter your user ID and password, or the yellow button that says click here to register. Please ignore those two items on this page. So I'm going to go ahead and click here to access my single sign-on tool. Now you have accessed the single sign-on page. Now, if you do not have an account, go ahead and click sign up at the bottom. Notice where it says do not have an account, click sign up. Go ahead and click sign up. Go ahead and enter your first name. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a trainer account today. And enter in your last name. Go ahead and put in an email address. This could be any email address, the email address that you have access to. I'm going to go ahead and put a trainer account in here, a valid email address. So once you have the first name, last name, and email in the appropriate boxes, go ahead and click sign up. Now, this following screen will not appear for most of you. However, some of you may realize or may not realize that you have currently an id.iowa.gov account already set up using some of our other state of Iowa applications. How will you know if you have an account set up? You would get an error message much like this. It says a user with this email already exists. So if you receive this error, no worries, go back and click on already have an account. Go ahead and use that same email address that you just typed in and click next. And then you would be asked to enter in your password and continue on to the dashboard. If for some reason you might have forgotten your password or maybe unable to log in, you can go ahead and click forgot password in the password page, or you can go back to sign in. And if you need to unlock your account, you can go ahead and do so. Now we're going to continue on for those that do not have an email address in the id.iowa.gov and continue on with that process. Now you are asked to set up security methods. There is no wrong way to set this up, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the recommended way. Go ahead and select the option password. Go ahead and click set up underneath password. Now you'll notice there are some password requirements. Go ahead and make sure you review those password requirements and go ahead and enter a password and then re-enter a password. Once you've entered a password and re-enter password, go ahead and click next. Now you are doing the next step, which is to verify your email. This is where you're going to navigate to your current email box, look for an email from id.gov, and you will go ahead and find a verification code. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm currently in my current email system, which is Gmail, but this would work for any email system. You would get an email from admin@id.iowa.gov. Once you open that email, you will see a one-time code. You could quickly just copy that code or memorize it and go ahead and go back to the screen that you currently were on and enter in that code. I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to the id.gov and go ahead and enter that code and click verify. If for some reason you didn't get it, go ahead and click send again if you want to have it be sent to your inbox. You might want to check your spam or other folders within your inbox, but it should come in directly to your email. I'm going to go ahead and click verify. Now this page is to set up additional security methods. Now what this is just to give you one more additional security method to identify who you are. We would strongly encourage maybe to check out set up phone. If you choose to, that's the most common one. You're used to these multi-factor authentications, especially in financial institutions. So again, just add an extra set of layer of security if you choose to. You could choose phone if you want. The other one that we recommend is Okta Verify. But again, not required, but maybe strongly encouraged. Again, I'm going to go ahead and click set up later, and then I will be currently signed into Iowa Grants. Now this page will vary per user. This is an example of a brand new user to Iowa Grants. They will be asked to complete the registration portion, which is this particular page. However, some of you will fall under the bucket of actually already having an Iowa Grants account, and you'll be prompted to a brand new page, which will get you directly where you need to go. Before I end this video, I strongly encourage you to check out the resources below in the description to learn more on how to get signed into Iowa Grants. Thank you so much.
All right. Patrick, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and stop sharing my screen.
Sounds good. Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. So hopefully everyone's seeing the Department of Management website that we just reviewed. Again, if you wanted to rewatch that video, I know that link is in the chat, or you can also capture it off the screen that's showing now. You'll also notice at the bottom of the page there is also a PDF version of the instructions. So it's a step-by-step printout of the video itself. So if you prefer to have that handout, you can click on that file and download that, and you can access it that way as well. All right. We're going to actually start looking at what the Iowa Grant system will look like once you log in. Now, again, the video discussed how to create your account. Once your account is activated and once it's set up, and then you'll be able to log into Iowa Grants. I do want to point out that the setup process, if you have not registered with Iowa Grants before, it does usually take at least a day or two. It is something that is done manually. So if you fill it out on a Friday afternoon, you might have to wait until that following Monday before you receive that confirmation email that your account has been activated. But once you have an activated account, you can go into Iowa Grants. You'll log in, and you can see in the top left-hand corner, you'll see your name as the active user, and it might take you to this general calendar page. I can't always guarantee that when you first log in that this is the first thing you're going to see. Traditionally, it'll be either the dashboard calendar, or you might just see this Iowa Grants banner highlighted somewhere in the calendar area itself. But once you're logged in, you'll want to navigate to funding opportunities, which is on the left-hand side. You'll select funding opportunities, and you'll see on my screen a lot of red test options because my account that I'm logged in currently is as a tester. You should only see these green items called posted. So you will be able to see all posted grants available for the state of Iowa listed in Iowa Grants. In order to quickly find the Iowa Health Careers 2.0 apprenticeship program, you can go to the search option and you can type in something that might be used as an identifier. So I'm going to just try one and I'm going to type health. Okay. You can quickly see that there's at least 3, 4, 5 different options that you're going to see. Again, you'll only see these green options as applications that are grant programs that are currently active in Iowa Grants with the title of health in it. So maybe we want to refine that search and maybe we want to look at apprenticeship. Okay, you can quickly see that those 5 just went down to 3. And you can see that there are the option for the Iowa Health Careers Registered Apprenticeship Program 2.0 is listed at the bottom. So again, you can type in workforce, development, apprenticeship, health. You can type in different identifiers to help you refine that search as much as you would like. But once you find your opportunity, go ahead and select it, and it will pull up the notice of funding opportunity information. You'll see that the final application deadline is March 9th at noon, as Deb pointed out. You can see the general information. The links are active, so you can select any of these links to take you to different areas. You'll see the program description, performance measures, funding, a lot of this stuff Deb has already discussed, as well as some use of funds. The main areas I want to highlight are down at the bottom, though. These are where you can find the attachments. So attachment A, B, and C, Deb has already highlighted in the webinar. But if you would like to see the full notice of funding opportunity, you can select the second option, and that will download as a PDF, and you can save that to your desktop, or you can print that out. So again, if you want to access these attachments, they are located at the bottom of the notice of funding opportunity page. Once you've read through the notice of funding opportunity and you are ready to start your application, you will select this green box on the top right-hand side called Start New Application. When you select that option, it will ask for some really general information, as in what is going to be the title of your application, who is the organization that is applying, your name, and that's about it. Okay, it's just asking for the general information for a cover page. Once you start your application, your current applications will always appear at the top here. So you can see that I've already started an application. So I've gone through this first process, and now it's going to be highlighted at this top. You can see I'm still in editing status, and the title of my application is Test for Webinar. What that means is that you can come back to this several times. You do not have to fill out the entire application all at once. So I'm going to access my application that I've already started. I'm going to select that bar, and it's going to open up the areas that I've already completed. You can see that I filled out just the general information. Some primary contact information is auto-filled because of my active Iowa Grants user account. So I didn't have to fill out a lot of this information. It was already pre-populated for me. And then you can see some of the questions that you're going to be asked on the application itself. You'll notice that I cannot edit any of these questions. They are just purely on a view status right now. One thing to note is if it is in red, if the text is in red, that is a required field for you to fill out. If it is in black, if the text is black, that is a not required field, but it is information that we're requesting as part of the application. So once you've read through the application, you're ready to start answering. I'm going to select the green Edit Application button, which is in the top right-hand corner. And that's going to open up those fields that we just saw. It'll separate them out into different components. So the general information, again, is just the title of the grant application and the organization I belong to. Minority impact statement and the cover sheet are two statewide components of all grants from the state of Iowa. So those are going to ask some general information about your program. And then these 4 sections are the main part of the application that IWD is responsible for asking. So you can select any of these options. I'm going to select executive summary, so we can open that option. And you can see that executive summary is in red, which means it's a required field. Organization legal name, federal FEIN number is required. Those are all red, but you'll notice that sam.gov is in black. Again, it is a required field eventually, but for the purpose of this application, you do not have to have it as part of your application, but you will be required to have it before your contract is enacted if you are selected as an awardee. Again, you'll notice that I'm not able to edit any of these. These are just view. I have to actually edit and open the form. So I select the green button, and that will open up all the sections for me to actually enter some information. If you see these text box, you are able to go to the bottom right and expand that so you can see your information that you're typing. And also note that there is the character or word information at the bottom too. So that way you can kind of keep track of where you're at and how many characters and words you have left. Again, some of these are going to be drop-down questions. This is a prior grant assessment. We have a conflict of interest statement section. And once you're done with this section of the application, you just select Save Form on the top right-hand corner, again in a green box. And once you save the form, it'll take you back to a page where you are able to navigate between the different sections. Now, earlier we were in the app list where they were labeled down at the bottom. We went into executive summary. Now you can see that that list is just now tabs at the top. So you can navigate different ways using those tabs. The main application is going to be the section that has the majority of the questions, and this is probably where the tab that you're going to spend the most time in, because this is where the scoring rubric really comes into place. You'll see you're not able to edit unless you actually open it. So open it by edit form, and then these sections become editable. Things to note is please make sure you're as detailed as possible. If you're not sure what to include in these sections, be sure that you're referencing the appendices from the notice of funding opportunity, because those do spell out exactly what we're asking for. And also note that if you have 1,500 words left versus a section that has say 3,500 words, if it's a higher word count, we might be looking for a lot of information in that section. I'm not saying that please use all 3,500 words. I'm just saying that if you see a higher word amount, it's more than likely we're asking for as much detail as possible that fits within that time. It fits within that word count. I do want to highlight this one section called Program Pathway General Information. This is a required field that we are asking. There's 4, as Deb pointed out, there are 4 different pathways. So we're asking the total number of registered apprentices in this pathway. Again, these are all estimates at this point. The related training instructor, or partner, which might be yourself, or it might be a third party, and the estimated expense for this pathway. So if you are planning on applying for one of these pathways, please make sure you enter that information. You'll notice that in my test application, I am planning on submitting something, not me, but this test application is planning to submit something for 3 of the 4 different pathways. If you're not planning on applying for one of the pathways or multiple of the pathways, please make sure that these areas still have zeros in them, because you do have to have something entered into that area in order to save this form. This is not the budget form. I do want to call that out. This is just a quick glance of an estimated cost of the program. So the budget form is going to be as another tab. So as I navigate back, you'll see apprenticeship budget spreadsheet. Sorry, that there it is. Apprenticeship budget spreadsheet. When you select that, it's going to actually break down the areas of the budget a little bit in more detail for you. You can see that I've added components in here already. Again, click the click the green add row button to be able to edit the area, and you'll be able to select from a drop down of menu options. Okay. Now, in the main application, there is a section called budget narrative. Please make sure that you are explaining your budget spreadsheet in your budget narrative. Please provide the details that are not provided in the spreadsheet within that budget narrative. So they should be able to match, and the reviewers will be looking at the information in the budget narrative to complement and to explain the budget that is listed in the spreadsheet. One last tab that I want to highlight before I turn it back over to Deb is the attachment tab. You'll notice that we are asking for letters of recommendation. Sorry, my cat just crawled in the view of the window. Letters of recommendation or partnerships, a W-9. So we are asking for both of those to be uploaded because they are red. And then in the black, again, are not required, but we will be asking for this information prior to an award being announced or enacted. So we will need to have your procurement policy, and then any other attachments that you might feel is valid and to provide information that maybe the application didn't ask for, or maybe you ran out of space on one of the narrative sections and you want to expand a little bit more. You can attach that as another attachment. All right. So again, that is the Iowa grant system. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it back over to Deb.
All right, thank you, Patrick. And I will go ahead here. Share my screen again for everyone. Okay, so hopefully everybody's seeing the Appendix B right now. So we're gonna go ahead, and we're getting close to the end of our time here today. So here is the Appendix C, folks. This is just an estimate of educational program cost. So I did look at the chat and saw a question in there from an individual who was asking if these were the only educational institutions that you can use for your programs, and that is an absolutely no. You can be creative, work with other partners. What we did is we just wanted to give you guys an estimate of what it might look like for an emergency medical technician to get their license or to get their education. So there's other institutions out there that provide this training, and that's where your creativity and your ingenuity can come into play. And please note that these are only estimates. These are just at a picture time in front, point in time, we captured this data. They could look different today based on what's included with all of that. But this is just a guide to kind of help you as you are developing your budget narrative for this particular grant. And that is the close of our presentation today. So you again attended the Iowa Health Careers Registered Apprenticeship Program 2.0. We thank you for attending today's webinar. Once again, the application for this grant can be found at the iowagrants.gov site. So go today, get started, folks. And Patrick, of course, will be available for any kind of technical assistance that you might need with that. You can view the Earn and Learn iowa.gov website. Once again, we're hoping to have this webinar in addition to any of the answers to the questions that were asked in our chat feature today. And this here is a list of your Iowa Workforce Development, Iowa Healthcare 2.0 Technical Assistant Team. So several of our panelists are on this list, but I also want to note Ms. Ann Hoffner and Chris Kula. They are two very important features within our department here, and I guarantee you that you will be working closely with both of them to develop your registered apprenticeship programs. So their information is also listed on here, as well as the Department of Labor phone number, because ultimately they are the ones that will do the final blessing of any registered apprenticeship programs that we assist you in developing. Will go to them. So unfortunately, we are out of time, and I apologize for that, but I promise you all of your questions that you have posted into the chat will get answered. You have our contact information here as well, so you can reach out to us. We're kind of all in this together, so it's a lot of information that we presented with you today, but please don't feel like you're alone in it. We want this grant to be a success. We want you to be a part of it. So don't hesitate to reach out with any additional questions or concerns, and we'll get you the tools and the resources that you need to move forward. Thank you so much, folks, and have a great day, everyone.